Oh, oh, sorry. I started recording, but
Oh no, we're good. I think we're all set. Yeah. So welcome back, everyone. This is episode 4 of Technically Managing. It is April 3rd, 2023. Let's get into it. So what's been new with you, Ramu?
as you can tell, I'm back home. I'm back in
Mhm.
Florida. Um, Basically just working a lot in the 23C, material and stuff like that. I'm assuming you're doing the same, are you?
I haven't been directly involved with the 23C stuff.
Okay.
So basically for the audience, there's our new Oracle database release,
Yeah.
23C. We're having I know the free version is coming out this week for that.
Mhm.
Is do we have is it all of 23C is going live, do you know, or is it just the free platform?
I'm not very sure. I think it's just a free platform, I want to
Okay.
say, but I'm
Yeah.
not like
So
100% sure.
yeah. So at the very least, if you're interested in Oracle Database 23C, all the database PMs have been buzzing around about that. So there'll be plenty of content out on the socials and Oracle platforms and stuff for that. And with the free version, you can get your hands on and start tinkering with that. So that's something that's definitely really cool. I've been focusing on this week. We also have the new 23.1 release for SQL CL. So this is the first time that Jeff is basically giving me the release notes. And he's like, let's start getting some stuff on Telky Tech, getting you synonymous with SQL CL and Liquibase. So he's having me take care of doing I'll do a post on Telky Tech, just kind of running through all the changes for 23.1 for SQL CL. Most of it is around our Liquibase like database automating database changes tool. So that will be cool. That's my kind of big to do today. So I'm looking forward to playing around with that and start kind of getting in that flow.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. So I actually have a question for you, right? Because you do like you let people send you like news and stuff like that, right?
What do you mean by let
Like
people send you news?
like for you to like post in your website, right? Do you like would you are you like okay, let me reword this because you kind of have like a mailbox for people to also send you like news, right? Is that right or no?
I should. That's a
I
good idea.
crying. I thought
Yeah.
you did actually.
So
Because,
I told
yeah.
people it's probably the easiest way. I should probably put like a reach out email address on the website.
Uh-huh.
If you want to reach out to me right now, my LinkedIn or Twitter, just like commenting on Telky Text the best way. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's probably a good idea.
Okay, well, because I was just going to ask you like what type of material would you be like, interested in people like sharing, right? Like for example, let's say that if I wanted to, I don't know, share some information about Graph and I wanted to promote it in your website, like what type of content are you like right now promoting? Like is it only blogs? Because I see that you mainly do blogs.
Yeah, so I would say for that, in terms, the best place that I can share Oracle info because I'm always looking for content is I have the weekly newsletter that I
Right.
do, the Wednesday weekly.
Mhm.
That's every single week. And sometimes some of the stuff I'm working on takes multiple weeks. So I'm always looking for ways to fill that content.
Right.
So if there's anything like ever Oracle, and this is just a blanket kind of statement to anyone listening who's at Oracle, you two obviously Ramu, but
Yeah.
if there's ever anything you want me to share Oracle related, I can just put a link or a little blurb in the Telky Tech newsletter. In terms of actual site content, I am focusing more, at least right now, in I
SQL.
mean, graph and spatial is still technically database. So if you wanted to do, say, what are they called, like those like partner posts where
Mhm.
you can write like a guest piece on it, like you can do
Mhm.
that anytime, or if you want me to help you with that, I'd definitely be down for it. But I would say in terms of actual Telky Tech site content, it is more focused on Oracle database. But if there's something outside of that, don't kind of automatically assume I wouldn't want to do it. I'm kind of like all ears to hear if it's a good idea, as long as it's not too far just crazy unrelated. I'm kind
Right,
of
right.
down for anything.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. I really thought you did that. I don't know why, but
I
whatever.
think it's because I
I
mentioned
invented
for
it.
the newsletter, like, hey, if anyone ever has content for the newsletter they want me to
Yeah.
share, like, do that. Yeah.
Yes,
I
yes.
should probably get an email out. I'm like literally gonna make a note right now.
Because yeah, like I do have a couple of like blogs that so like this last week actually I posted my first blog in Spanish
Oh,
that
nice.
like I do want to start doing some content in Spanish because I feel like they're not very, I don't know, like taken care of, I guess,
It's like an underserved audience, not having
Right.
technical or having technical information in languages other than English, I would assume.
Yeah, and I do feel like overall Oracle, like they do try to make an effort to reach out to people, from like different countries, different languages. But we do stick a lot to English only for our documentation. So, and like I feel like it's like, I guess, I don't know, like maybe French people, they only like to read stuff in French,
Hmm.
I feel like Spanish people are also like that. Like, yes, they know English, but they're more comfortable, like, reading in Spanish. So that's why, like, that's kind of my aim right now, maybe making more content in Spanish. But I'm also hopefully soon we're publishing like a new YouTube video that I think it's pretty cool. Where we're using like Sparkle endpoints, and I'll be sharing that video with you just for you to watch it for
Sounds
fun.
good.
But like if you ever need, or if you ever want to help me out with like spreading the word, I'll definitely share some content with you. And I think
Yeah.
it's nice. Also, we are part of the database. So
Yeah. So yeah, that still falls under the umbrella too. Yeah,
Mhm.
because even yeah, any content you want to do, even if it's in Spanish, because I do feel like it would be cool to kind of get different audiences into kind of our ecosystem, just let
Mhm.
me know. And I'm pretty much, I don't really see many situations where if you're like, hey, can I do a guest post on Telky Tech? And then we link to it just so I have a platform. Say if there's like, you don't want to post it on, I don't know, the Oracle blog or they're not interested or something, like, yeah, just let me know. That could be cool to start kind of getting cross content out like that.
Right. And honestly, like I was looking, I mean, we don't have any, actually, I'm going to check, but I don't think we have any like Spanish listeners as of like, like country wise.
Mhm.
Because like how we see the statistics of our um podcast and stuff,
Yeah.
but we do have like people from like a lot of different countries that I'm like surprised, I'm like, wow, what? You're listening from there? It's pretty fun to look at the statistics of our
Yeah.
podcast. But yeah, that's basically what I've been working on this week.
How was getting back from the Canary Islands? Do you miss it? Are you ready to kind of be home?
I feel like it's so hard. Like every time you leave, like you're always excited to go, but when you leave, it's so hard. Like especially like leaving my mom and stuff, it's like a little sad.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's like so I'm a little sad, but it's okay. I'll
Yeah,
get back to it, and I'm hopefully she'll come visit me. So
that'd be nice.
yeah, did you do anything interesting this weekend?
So I've been pretty heads down from January through, I would say even March, just
Mhm.
with, I've had a lot of stuff like going on in terms of work things, working on the SQL CL Liquibase live lab, which we're finally starting to wrap up, and also just putting together some presentations and whatnot. And then I also had like all my Telky Tech stuff that basically consumed all my like January and February free time.
Mhm.
So I kind of became a bit of a cave gremlin where there was
Wow.
just a lot of days of me being like shades down, just have my coffee, zoom into work, just unhealthy practices and stuff, just not getting outside enough, not working out as much as I should be, like not eating the best I could be. So I'm trying to turn that around, and I put together a bit of a program for myself in terms of not just like eating healthy, but also just like, okay, let's get back to consistency of the workouts. Let's make sure we get some
Mhm.
sunlight. I'm trying to do 5 mile run every morning. And then after I finish that, just go outside and do like a loop around my neighborhood to get some morning sun, because apparently like getting sunlight
It's
within the first,
important.
yeah, and especially within the first hour of waking up. I think Dr. Andrew Huberman, he has a pretty big just podcast and presence online. He's really good, just health, mind, life stuff. He's a neuroscientist at Stanford, I believe. But he was just like, yeah, sunlight first hour, super important if you can get it. I'm also trying to, on weekdays, keep my eating to within an 8 hour period for like intermittent fasting. So
Mhm.
I'm doing kind of a bunch of different stuff. I have some fun to hold myself accountable. I don't think I'm ready to share all the details yet, but I
Mhm.
have been kind of doing like a daily journal to keep
Mm.
myself accountable, and I'm going to be creating content around it. So there might be some fun, just more on the lifestyle and career side of things, stuff I put out around this that could be cool in probably a month or two, but I'm taking it slow and I have some ideas and plans. So I'm excited about it. So I'm trying to kind of put multiple things together just to keep myself accountable and make this like fun and encouraging. But I also tried to go outside of like my just daily walk and stuff,
Mhm.
and finally start to work on my tan this weekend. I got so burnt. I haven't seen direct sunlight in so long. I I should show you. Can I show my back right now?
Yes.
Is that podcast? We should.
Censors it.
I know. I should be saving this for our Patreon if you want like the Zach scantily clad pics. Okay, I want to see if I can show you because it's really bad. It's been 3 days since this, but my back is terrible.
Even Leo came here to look at your back right now. No, no. Are you wearing sunscreen?
What'd you say?
Are you wearing sunscreen?
My girlfriend told me to. I told her in my infinite wisdom, my plan was to just get like a baseline sun the first time I went out before I started putting sunscreen on.
No, no.
I was
Wear
worried.
sunscreen, please.
I was only out for an hour. I was reading on a blanket in the park, and I thought, oh, the first time, if I'm only an hour, I should just not do sunscreen so it tans evenly. Because with sunscreen, sometimes you miss a spot. You can just like get those lines and all that. But I just burned evenly. It was not a smart plan.
Look at Leo. He's judging you right now.
I
Like,
took my headphones out when you reacted. Is it bad?
it's bad.
Yeah.
No, you should no. I'm okay. I'm gonna sound like a mom, but no matter what, you should wear sunscreen. Like even like inside, the first thing I do when I wake up is put sunscreen in my face because you don't want to look like wrinkly when you're older, you know? And that's not okay, Zach. Like you should definitely wear sunscreen. I force my boyfriend to wear sunscreen.
Okay. Montana was pushing
So
hard.
yes.
I think I learned my lesson a bit after that, but
Like it's okay, you'll tan, not as fast, but you will tan. But do not go like that. You don't the sun is so bad for you. Like, you know what I
I
mean? Like
know.
it's good, but like it's bad when you're like trying to freaking look like a shrimp.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, no. I mean, good that you're like doing all that stuff, but like,
Yeah.
please don't risk your life, okay?
I know. So we're trying to do some improvement stuff. We're learning some lessons along the way. We've already made a couple mistakes here, but that's all what technically managing is about. We're putting
Right.
ourselves out there. We're seeing what works. We realize we need sunscreen and we learn our lessons and we're better people for it.
Legit.
So,
I feel like you explained so many of my struggles just now, you know,
in terms
like
of sunscreen.
no, I don't struggle with sunscreen anymore. Cause like before actually I used to say, oh, I'm from an island, like I don't get burnt, you know, I
Mhm.
don't need sunscreen. But then I'm like, you know, do I want to look young when I'm older? Yes, so I'm gonna wear sunscreen, you know? So yeah, if you want to look young when you're older, you should definitely wear sunscreen.
Okay.
But I'm talking about more of like whenever you have like a deadline or like a project or you're working in a lot of things, like just going through like the route of just not really taking care of yourself, you know, like going to sleep late, waking up early, so you're not getting enough sleep, not exercising how you should be exercising, or going outside your house. Like I told you, get a dog, because
Yeah,
my dog forces me to go outside and take some sun, or even sometimes like you even forget about your boyfriend or girlfriend, like you're just working so hard that you don't have time for them. And I don't know, like things like that matter for your sanity in life, even
I
like
know.
eating healthy too.
It's such a hard trap too, because I know exactly why I fell into this hole. It's because, like, especially in your 20s, where it's like you're
Mm-hmm.
starting out in your career, when you finally start to have some success, where like job was going good with PM, finally starting to get a rhythm. I'm getting to work on these cool things. So I'm like, oh, I'm enthusiastic. Like, finally, a chance
Mm-hmm.
to just prove myself,
Yep.
getting all this good positive feedback with both Telky Tech and the specific internal work stuff. So you kind of just think like, good thing, more of a good thing, even better. And then, especially because of like the crunch I put myself through, like January and February, I kind of went through that and looked back on it and I was like, okay, that was a little bit too much, but I really liked how much I got done, which kind of
Mm-hmm.
bled into March, me trying to keep up some of those practices just because I'm like, oh, like the output was so good. It's like I zoned in so hard that I was getting a lot accomplished. But then I was just starting to notice, I'm like, I'm tired, I'm stressed out, I'm too anxious. Like, why do I feel jittery? It's like, because I haven't gotten sunlight. It's like, I'm not being
Mm-hmm.
consistent with my working out and all that. So it is one of those things where, especially in our field, there will be crunch times where
Mm-hmm.
you do kind of have to go in a little bit more. But at the end of the day, it's like the body does kind of keep score,
Yeah.
and you can't. It, if I've learned anything from having like a mentally intensive job in tech, it's just how much there is that mind body connection where we don't think about it in like the small moments, but how your body is and like how you treat it and just what you're doing for your health, that will affect your ability to perform mentally.
A
And
hundred
you can
percent.
kind of take out loans with that every once in a while, but those debts will come due. So I'm just like, yeah, let's do a little reset point. I've been doing it for I think I started this like around middle of last week or something. I don't know. But I'm excited to see where it goes. I've been like daily journaling everything. I'm gonna turn that stuff into some kind of content. I'm mostly doing it to keep myself accountable with that because if I am gonna try to do some kind of self-improvement journey, I have to be like 100% honest. And if I am 100% honest, like
It's
I,
scary.
yeah, because I don't want to have to like go and post on Telky Tech and be like, yeah, another night of McDonald's chicken nuggets after going out with friends. That happened. I was being so good um the past couple days, and Saturday I had a birthday party to go to. So we all went out. It was a really fun time. I got to meet some new people. So it's like on one hand, I still want to make sure that I have time to do that kind of stuff because there really is a benefit. It's like if going out
A
and drinking
hundred
with
percent.
people, especially in your 20s and like a big thriving city, that's how
Mhm.
you make like the new bonds with people. That's how you get introduced. It's like those social circles. And it is nice to get
Mhm.
out of the house and you're kind of day to day and let loose. But I'm
Mhm.
also trying to be more cognizant about spacing those out and being smart in the way I do it because I did feel like shit the next morning because I did tequila shots like all of Saturday night. And then afterwards, when it's like 1 a.m. and you and your girlfriend are like, do we order McDonald's chicken nuggets right
Ugh,
now? It sounds like the best idea in the world, but I
but
was
it's
struggling
not.
Sunday. But then, like, here I am today. I woke up at 6 a.m., got my 5 mile run in. I did a lap around the lake, just got some sunlight. I'm like feeling great all morning. So I'm like, okay, I need to start being
Continue that.
accountable for it. Yeah. So I'm
Yeah,
excited.
for sure. I think that's definitely, I think it's all about balance, right? It's just like it's hard to balance sometimes because you like, I don't know, something always comes up or something. So you have to, I don't know, be in the go or something.
I
So
think with remote work too, that's one of the
yeah.
especially challenging things because as much as I love remote work and it does make me more efficient, and I do think if you're good with self control in your time, you could really milk some more hours out of your day with it. But
Mhm.
the bad thing is because you're working from the place you live, it's much easier to have those barriers between work and not work stuff dissolve to the point where it's like you're always thinking about things and it's like, oh, I'll just go do a little blah 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 on it. But it's like, nah, you have to at the very least make sure you kind of stand up for yourself to yourself in
Yeah.
terms of it. Like your just health and keeping yourself sane version of yourself needs to kind of set boundaries with your work personality.
Yes. Like I don't know if this happens to you, but like for example, like right now, um, like I love editing videos, right? So I'll be working on a video and then I don't know, like I'll be just done with it, right? So I just walk away, but then I'm cooking and then something appears in my brain and I'm like, okay, let me apply it really quick. So then I sit down in my desk that is like right next to my kitchen and then I start applying it really quick, but it's not really quick, you know? Or I don't know, I see a Slack message and I go right into my computer and try to figure it out, even though it's like late, you know? So it's so hard to separate that. And sometimes you literally have to tell yourself, okay, after 6 or after 7, I'm not working anymore. Like I'm not looking at my computer. My dog literally, like if it's 7 and I'm still working, he'll bring me a toy. He'll like pull me so that I can like walk away from my desk. Like he hates seeing me work late, you know? And he's so annoying because he loves squeaky toys. So he won't stop until I stand up and leave my desk.
Your
So
dog is your accountability buddy.
oh my God, he's so needy, so needy.
It's
Of
so
course,
cute
because he's
though.
sleeping all day, right? So like at
He
7,
has all the energy in the world. He doesn't have to work
yeah,
as a product manager. You're the one paying
exactly.
the bills. He can just, he's the trophy dog.
Yeah, he, you know that I saw it on TikTok. It was like something like dual income,
No
no
kids.
kids. Yeah, dog or
What do
something
they
like
call
that.
it? I think it's, wait, dual income, no,
No children,
dink? Is that what they call it?
something like that. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's literally my dog. But yeah, it's important though for sure to be balanced, but it's hard because you never know. Like I feel like being a PM every day is so different every day.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, is I feel like with our role, part of the thing that keeps me sane is I'm not doing the same thing every day, but
Yes.
also it does make it a little bit more difficult finding ways to carve out time for yourself when you don't have a consistent routine because you can have your full day planned out and get a Slack message from your boss and you're like, this is now my next 3 hours figuring out that thing I have to get back to him about kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it has pros and cons, I guess.
Yeah. I'm trying to get apps for the summer though. I'm hoping to make my Oracle content more clickbaitable to get to justify my job, maybe get more
Right.
money. Because like if I'm just like showing up this summer, like ripped outside in Austin, being like, check out the Oracle database, and my view count starts soaring, I'll be like, hey Jeff, let's talk about getting some more money here. So
I'm so
let's work smarter, not harder. I don't have to
I'm
use my
so
brain to get all
done.
my income.
Goals. Let me
I
know.
know.
Let me know if you make it happen so I can follow your you should make like a coach course if that happens.
I did take a before picture before I started though. So we'll have to see what the after picture is.
I'm just saying, you're saying this in this podcast, even if no one is hearing this, like I'm gonna keep you accountable.
I know. I'm doing it as much as I hate it. I'm doing this on purpose because I want people to call me out. But it's also give me the credit if I do good. Don't like if I end up in the summer having abs and all this stuff works out, check out my content. Please share it. Give me credit. Don't just be like another online personality with unrealistic standards for the rest of us. No, I'm starting from zero. I am nobody. I'm just some PM trying to make it on the internet. We'll see how this goes.
You'll go from like toilet break to ab Zach or something.
I'll go from like bathroom boy
Bathroom boy.
to like badass boy or something. I don't know. Where do you go from bathroom boy? I feel like there's a long journey to something respectable.
At least anything is possible, So
Yeah.
I believe in you, but I'm gonna keep you accountable. Not gonna
Well,
lie.
sounds
Like,
good.
when is your deadline?
Um, I know I'm definitely going to be doing the journaling for at least 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
I'm currently, I don't want to share all the stuff, but I can share some details.
Okay,
I
okay.
think what I'm going to do is this might end up being something. I can either put this under Telki Tech under my career and life section,
Mm-hmm.
or I might do it as another separate project entirely and maybe do some Telki Tech just crossover with it. But I think my plan right now, do this journal for 60 or 90 days straight. And then what I'll do is start releasing the journals as daily posts,
Okay.
like on a delay. So let's say if I'm like 60 days in, I'm like, okay, I have a good content to
Okay.
start. I'm making sure this is going in a direction where it's something that can actually provide value to other people.
Mhm.
Then I'll probably keep going, but then start releasing the backlog. So then it's like you have that daily content with the just daily pinging people on the socials. You can get more attention and all that and build it up that way. So that's kind of at least my like preliminary thoughts around it. And then maybe when I do like the posting of my like daily posts, I'll just make sure I include all the extra resources in terms of like what I'm doing because I for the audience who doesn't know, I'm like a huge reader in my life. My apartment is basically empty except for my TV, video game systems, and literally like 4 bookcases of books. I need to like show a picture sometime, but I love diving into all those kinds of resources. So I have plenty of material on like health and wellness. It's just diving back into it and making sure I hold myself to it. So I do have a general idea what to do, but
Right.
it'll be cool. Let's see
Right.
where it goes.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it. And I also want to see your first post in Instagram or something because
I know
it's
that's what
happening.
I'll start to tell Tech Instagram. Like right now, I'm kind of thinking like what Instagram pictures can I
Yeah,
just incorporate PM content around? It's
I
something
know.
that's a little bit harder for me, but yeah, if we can do something fun around this, maybe I can finally start getting Instagram going. I hope I need to check before I release this episode, but I'm pretty sure I saved the Telki Tech Instagram handle. I'm gonna check after to make sure if we're putting this live.
I follow you like your Instagram. I don't think you have a Talkie Tech Instagram.
If I have,
Maybe? I'm not
if
sure.
you follow my Instagram, it's probably the Telki Tech one.
Mm, I'm pretty sure it's just
Do we
your
check this
name.
right now?
Yeah,
Because I don't think I.
I might be wrong though. Oh no, 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 sorry. It's Talkie Tech. Yes.
Oh, I do have a Telki Tech Insta. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. So I have the handle saved. I don't need to worry about that.
Yep. Anyways, where did we
Yeah.
leave off?
So I think the last thing we mentioned was at the end of the last episode, we were saying how we want to get Sangita on, who was both of
Mhm.
our managers. So basically, with the class up program for solution engineering, I started out, we had 2 managers, Frank Besh, Sangita Swami. Um, Ramu started out on Sangita's team and then switched to Frank's. I started on Frank's team and then switched to Sangita. They were just like still moving people around the structure because they treated us, our 2 teams, as kind of a joint team. But we did reach out to Sangita. Unfortunately, she isn't able to make it for this episode, but she is extremely excited about coming on the podcast. So we will have her on in the future. But yeah, I think
I
at the end
think
of the
Frank would
episode,
also be like a funny person to have too.
oh, I definitely want Frank too. Like, I bet Frank has some really good sales stories because
Hmm.
I don't know. He just like strikes me as kind of not old school, but he does come from, you can tell he comes from like a different generation of tech.
Definitely.
And it's funny because like I feel like at least Sangita kind of feels like a millennial to me. And Frank does like kind of feel like he was in the industry a bit earlier before that because he was I don't know if he was at Oracle near the beginning, but he was at least like familiar of the ecosystem pretty early on with the company.
I know he worked for Oracle before
Uh-huh.
now, And I think he always mentions how like he would have to read like huge manuals,
Yeah,
like like the video recording things. I don't know how you call them
like
in
the cassettes.
the cassettes. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sounds like a very long time ago.
I know. I'm like, that's why I have like this old school association in my head. Because I do remember him telling me about that. Just basically when he started at Oracle, they're just like, here's the manual, here's the cassette tape tutorial, here's a room,
Watch it by yourself and
come out
figure
in a
it out.
month when you figure it out, kind of thing. Yeah. So I bet he has some really cool stories. Frank is awesome. He's like such a great guy. So I would love to have him on too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. We should definitely ask him.
Yeah. But I think we were just about the point where we were starting to get into the product management interview process. So before we go into the specific interview, because this was something that I was considering pretty heavily, is as we were starting to make our way through the class of program, get towards the end of it as solution engineers, the whole thing is they kind of start to sprinkle us out through the other teams. But we do have a bit of a say in terms of where we go. And if we show like certain interests, they did take that into account. What was your thought process around graduating from the class of team? Was there something specific that you like wanted to go into? Was there like any teams or products you wanted to graduate to? Like, were you just kind of going with the flow? Like, do you have any thoughts around like that kind of area of like planning your exit from solution engineering to like say a professional team?
The thing is, like, I feel like I didn't really plan my exit. I didn't
Mhm.
even know we were graduating, to be honest. I got my interview before they made that announcement that we could like actually look into other teams. And I think we spoke about it, right? Like you kind of did too, but I wasn't really aware that we were able to, switch teams and stuff like that. So I thought I was going to be a solution engineer until I don't know when. Um, so yeah, I honestly didn't really have any plans or anything. I didn't even know what product managers did, to be honest. I wasn't
Mhm.
really understanding of it neither. Um, what about you?
It was interesting because I remember it was something I was thinking about a bit, and I was actually throwing the idea around of Sangita about transitioning to be a software as a service solution engineer because I was kind of taking account of all the stuff that I was enjoying in the class of program. And
Mm-hmm.
there's always been that part of me that is strategy oriented. And
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy like the project nature of some of the internal stuff we looked on. And I think I was looking at going over potentially to solution engineering on like the marketing product side because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be closer to more of like the business activity type thing, where something that I could still kind of dive into and learn inside and out and become an expert, but kind of I was interested in, say, whereas the deeper you are in the tech stack, and just in terms of like the complexity of the tech that you're working in, the people in solution engineering, say for the platform, database, middleware, analytics stuff that we're working on, you're presenting to other technical people usually. But when
Mm-hmm.
you're on the SaaS side and kind of your more high level tech, you're presenting more to your business type people. And I was interested in building up my business language and communication. And like my kind of mindset going into the whole potential marketing products and SaaS was getting exposure and presenting and working with like a more business audience and kind of doing a little bit of a ratio change in terms of how much time I spend, because like the SaaS products are a little bit lighter, having more of my focus kind of be on presentation skills, business value, strategy, and stuff did seem appealing versus, say, our class of team, where we were like a specialist licensed platform tech org. So we were super deep, and the solution engineers who had been around in our org for a while, like not the class ofs, they were like the specialists for the solution engineers. Like we were a
Yeah.
level deeper of technical than just your average like cloud engineer. And
Yeah.
like with that, it kind of came from a mindset of I've always been good in places where I'm wide, not deep, where I can go deep in things and I do enjoy it. But I would say like my best skill set is when I can say, take a look at information from a variety of sources and synthesize it together and try to find the optimal solution to it. So that was kind of like all my thought processes going around where to move, trying to kind of figure out what my next play would be after the class of team. But what happened was then kind of out of nowhere, the whole product management like offer came along where it was Sangeeta, I think was like talking to Kay Malcolm, who we've mentioned her before on the podcast. She's one of the database product management directors. I had done some projects for her team. And then my boss, Jeff Smith, he was looking for a new PM to bring in someone younger, bring them in at like a lower like they call IC levels at Oracle. It's basically like your ranking in terms of salary bracket and how kind of high up in the company you are. And he was like looking for someone kind of like in our place to bring in early, train up. Jeff was talking to Kay. Kay's like, oh, this guy Zach, he's done some work from us, very PM type projects. You should talk to him. And then Kay talked to Sangeeta, and Sangeeta's like, hey, like there might be an opportunity to come to product management. This is kind of the gist in it. Like, what do you feel about that? And because I was with the whole me looking for the SaaS solution engineering thing, it was more so about me kind of taking a look at what am I enjoying? What skills have I been developing? What things do I want to continue to develop? And that kind of led to me searching in that area. So I wasn't so much worried about the specific position, kind of like how I've mentioned like across my content before. For me, it's always been about
what you're doing.
What are the kind of the seeds, the things actually going in on the work and finding the positions to match that. So when I kind of had the whole PM thing explained to me, I was like, this kind of sounds right up my alley. And I can go a little further after like I kick it back to you. But that was kind of the primer for me getting into that whole PM interviewing circuit.
Right. For me, it was more of, so you know how we were preparing for a lot of presentations, demonstrations, and we would, present to Frank and Sangeeta and like maybe other people. One of them, Killian and I, we decided to do spatial and graph. And I remember we met with David from my team now, that he's super knowledgeable in spatial. And then we also met with Melly, my now manager, right? And I remember David Gnau. I always have a hard time saying his last name.
The amount of people on Slack who I just look at their name. I literally was asking Jeff about this morning. I'm like, how do you pronounce this last person's name? And Jeff's like, I got no idea. I'm like, okay, it's not just me. We should put that somewhere. I don't know if there's like a place on our internal directory. If you could put like out phonetic spellings of your name, that would be great, because like I would be willing to put the time into learning how to pronounce it. I just feel bad like bringing up, especially if it's someone you've met before, and be like, how do you say your name again? It's like, oh, I thought you've already like figured this out. But
well, I love David, but I have a hard time with the G and the N next to each other. Genau, I guess. Hopefully it's right. Sorry if it's not. But but I think that's a really good idea, and they have it on LinkedIn, so it's possible, But yeah, so he told me, he was like, oh, Melly's such a nice person, you should definitely connect with her and see, what she does and stuff like that. Like she's super nice. I think your personality might match. So I was like, okay, well, like so I asked her questions about graph, and every once in a while, like, well, first of all, like during SE class of in general, you are looking for opportunities all the time, right? Like you're looking into getting into projects and stuff like that. So every time I spoke to her, I would tell her like, hey, if you need help with anything, let me know. So I would talk to her like maybe once a month, and she was always super nice. I would ask her questions like, oh, what are you working on? But it was very just like, I don't know, I wasn't thinking about, oh, PM could be an option, because for me it was okay, I just joined as a solution engineer. I need to stay as a solution engineer until, I don't know, until I master my skills as a solution engineer, I thought, you know. So um one day she just tells me, she's like, oh, we have an opening, you know, you should apply. um I don't know if you're going to be picked, but you know, maybe it doesn't hurt to apply. So I was looking at the description and I was like, I don't fit any of this. Like, they're basically saying that they want someone that knows Python, kind of understands graph and spatial and all this stuff. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to give it a try because why not? But I was like, I'm probably not going to get it. And I think it was for an IC level above than mine. So yeah, so I honestly wasn't thinking about that. I promise you, I didn't even know what PMs did. Like, I spoke to some PMs, but everything is so broad, and every time you ask someone what they do is so different to what others do, you know? So you're like, okay, I really don't get what a PM does then.
Even now, I'm still like, if you were to ask me just like off the streets, like, what do you do? It's like, can I have a minute to think on this?
Yeah. Because sometimes it's like, for example, my answer will be like, oh, I create videos showing our technology, but I don't know, maybe one day I will help with like the licensing information, you know, when like someone in my team can do it. So I also do that, but then I might present another day, you know, for customers, or I might be working on a live lab, or I just don't know. There's just so many things that a PM does, but we all have different roles, I guess. At least in my team, we all have different roles. So it's a very complex like position to like actually explain what you do, you know. So yeah, basically I wasn't thinking about my future.
Yeah.
Conclusion. And then of course, like, I applied, and actually, funny story, and I think I told you this, but I applied and I thought that you weren't supposed to tell your manager that you're applying for a job until you actually get the job, right? So I didn't tell Sangeeta anything, and I was under Sangeeta at that time, right? And I remember getting an email saying something like, talking about, I don't remember, but it was weird. The like the title was something like applying for jobs or something like that, right? So I was like, oh my God, like maybe they found out that I was applying for jobs. So they're just going to give like a, like, you know, letting everyone know type of thing, you know, like, you know, that child that like, you know, basically started something, and you're not gonna just tell them, you're gonna like tell everyone else just to make sure that they don't fuck up, basically. Sorry, excuse my language, you know, but I'll beep it.
No, we're good, I think.
So then I was like, okay, well, I'm in trouble, I guess, you know. And then
Wait, so were you worried they'd make an example of you, is what you're saying?
yes.
Oh, like they're inviting people like, Ramu, you went behind.
I didn't think they were going to say my name, but maybe
Uh-huh.
they, you know, it would be something like, oh, we've heard that some of you have been applying for jobs, you know,
Mhm.
and you're not supposed to do that because you are a solution engineer, you're still in class off. I don't know. I was inventing like a story in my head, you know?
I still do that all the time.
So
No,
I was
like
like,
that's a big thing though. It's like when, especially when you're new, it's like
yeah,
you don't know, so your brain fills in the blanks with the
yes.
worst possible scenarios. Yeah.
Right, because it was literally like a week before my interview or something like that, or I was having my interview that same week, right? So I was like, okay, like, great, you know, like, basically I messed up, you know? So anyways, so then we go to the meeting, and then they're like, you guys can start applying for jobs, like start thinking what you want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I
Mhm.
remember a couple of people saying like, oh, I want to be a PM. And I was like, wow, they're so brave. Because like sometimes you feel like you shouldn't be saying things like that, you know, you shouldn't be saying you want to leave a team, because what if you apply and you don't get the job, you know?
Mhm.
Then people will know that you want to leave. But that's just me being like you know, my paranoia and shit.
No, I think that's like not even, so that part's not even paranoia. That's just kind of like covering your butt, because that
Right.
is true. And it does get much more complicated when you are moving internally, because companies like Oracle, it's like they do want you, in the grand scheme of things, to move around, get new skills, stay in the Oracle ecosystem, move your way up, because the senior manager people, a lot of them have bounced around, because that's how you get a bigger picture of how the company works, which helps you when you're having to do those managerial type things as
Mm,
you move your way up through progression. But it's also like, it's hard too, because in the meantime, it's, you get to guilt around like letting your current team down, leaving. Also, just like,
exactly.
what am my manager going to think? Or it's like, even if they're like nice to your face about it, you're just like, shoot, I still know I'm making a problem for them, where they're losing a resource. And even if you
Exactly.
don't get it, it's like, it's that much more awkward, because like, they're like, when's the next time Ramu going to apply for something? But
Exactly.
yeah.
So, yeah, so I was very worried about that, all that
Mhm.
stuff. And anyways, but that was not the case at all for us, at least. Like from my point of view, like that was not the case. Like they were basically saying, like you guys can go ahead and apply to other teams. If you want to continue being a solution engineer, go ahead and like apply for other teams. We'll let you know if there's any openings. If you tell us like what you're interested in, we'll try to help you. So right after that call, literally right after that call, I scheduled a call with Frank and a call with Sangeeta, and I told them, I was like, oh, I'm already basically, interview, like I'm going to interview this week, and they helped me prepare for my interview. So it was great. Everything I invented in my head was not true, clearly, but I was so stressed. I was so stressed. I literally thought I was like in trouble, basically. I was
Uh-huh.
like, okay, they might be like, okay, Ramu doesn't like us or something. But yeah, that was my experience almost transitioning, right? Because like we haven't gone over like our interview or anything like that.
Yeah. No, because like that is something that, looking back on it. So with my experience, I was talking to Sankita about my, and I was pretty transparent the whole time, because I was looking for her guidance too, because I was kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, these are the patterns I'm noticing about what I'm doing well and enjoy. I'm kind of
Mm-hmm.
thinking this direction of the whole SaaS and marketing thing. Like, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
So she was pretty in tune to my process, at least. And when I did go through the whole interview process for product management, Sangeeta was such an asset, where
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the details because those in calls I wasn't included, but like, I'm pretty sure she talked me up pretty heavily to Jeff, and was just talking about like, Zach's done this for the team. And she was completely had my back, was a
Mm-hmm.
great manager. She helped as part of like the negotiation process for me coming over to PM, getting me IC2 in the transition, because everyone in class of starts in IC1. It's the
Mm-hmm.
lowest level. And even say across things like solution engineering to PM, everyone in Oracle has an IC level. So that's kind of regardless of your specific position. Um,
Right.
so she was like fighting for me to like get me IC2, get me a raise with the jump and stuff. So like having her in my corner made things so great, and a lot less stressful. Like, don't get me wrong, like, kind
It
of,
was still stressful.
yeah, I'm still stressed out, being like, oh shoot, 1,000 things are going through my mind.
Yeah.
But I do like, one of the things I kind of saw from that, and I'm curious what lessons could be taken from it, because like in the future, what I learned from that is, when the opportunity is there, keep as many relationships on the positive, healthy side as possible, and like
100%.
exit gratefully or
Mm-hmm.
gracefully, because your manager could be like a huge kind of asset in terms of the transition, like mine was. But,
Yep.
and like, especially with getting like more money, higher position, all that. But I do kind of wonder, because that's not a situation everyone has, where a lot of the times people are leaving is because they're having a bad work experience.
Mm-hmm.
And even if it's something that's not going to happen at all, and it is like kind of like we're talking about, like a complete just irrational fear that your brain makes,
Mm-hmm.
I know there are people who are worried about the whole will my manager even though they obviously won't, like, will my manager like be salty, like what will they say in kind of my exit review, like are they talk, especially for an internal transfer, like are they talking, will they try to like
Mhm.
do things to kind of keep me, or I don't know, like maybe they'll, even if it's subconsciously, be like a little petty about it. So I do kind of wonder like if there's any lessons to learn when you're trying to get out of like a bad work situation and putting yourself in a positive light, because I know people who say leave their position to go something else, they're feeling insecure because if they're leaving and stuff wasn't going well,
Mhm.
chances are their self-esteem is going to be a little bit lower. And even if you're the best worker, have like the best personality in the world, if your self-esteem is a little bit lower and you're not so sure that you can like rely on your manager to say kind of like give you like a good word, how do you, like how do you put yourself in that best life like light for selling yourself for your next job?
Yeah, that's so deep.
I
Like,
know. I'm asking you like you have an answer to it, but I'm like literally just trying to think out loud and see if there's anything we
no,
can
and
add to it.
yeah, no, like I agree because like we were lucky enough to have a good like experience where we were able to talk to both, like I mean me, like I was able to talk to both my managers like nothing, like being
Mhm.
just myself. But I think I know for a fact, right? Like I've heard people that are in other companies and they're like, "Oh, I joined in this position, right? And then I wanted to go to this other position, but my team basically said, well, like one of like kind of like a mentor type of person basically told me that I can't leave, or if I leave this team, everyone's gonna have like a bad image of me and all this stuff, right?
Mhm.
And I mean, for example, like Frank and Sangita, they still like I feel like they would, like if I were to reach out to them and ask them for a favor or or some like advice or something, they would still do it for me.
Yeah. Like
So
we were
I
talking about this beginning of the podcast, like Singy is so excited to come on. I'm sure Frank would love to as well. It's like,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, so and it's sad that like these other people, they're like, wow, I cannot leave my team because then it would look bad on me. And who knows if like that's gonna be good for like my next team, right? Because if like my previous team is like not seeing me with good eyes, then how are they gonna see me, right? Like this is
Mhm.
like internally, right? If you change your job, I think it would be a little easier because you're starting from zero, even though you do come with that like kind of insecurity or like guard up of like, oh, I cannot be open with other people or my manager because I lived this um, you know, experience with my previous job. So I feel like, okay, so me, the way I would approach things is probably I would try to read my manager before being open with them because you just never know, like
Mhm.
how they tell people, oh, this is your job, like you shouldn't be talking about your personal life at your work, or you shouldn't be sharing stuff at work. I think it really depends on who you're working with because some people do care about your life, or what you're doing or how you're doing, right? Let's say that if you were to be in a very hard situation where, I don't know, someone in your family is sick, you would want your job to be understanding. But that's not the case for everyone, and that sucks. But that's why you just have to know who to share your personal life with at work, I think.
Yeah. And I think like even though I don't have the answer to all this stuff, something I at least think is like probably helpful is it's funny because to be good in your career, especially in a corporate collaborative environment, you have to be pretty empathetic towards other people, where it's like
Mhm.
if you're going to be a good team player, you have to put yourself in like their shoes and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
when the situation gets bad, those kind of instincts can work against you, because like even when I left my first job in as an insurance company, it
Mhm.
was one of those things where they were understanding. I mean, I was low. I was so low that I wasn't making or breaking the company or anything. But like when I was going through the exit interview, it's like I felt really guilty about like leaving my team and people. I'm like, look, it's like I understand this is the next step in my life that I have to make. And it was luckily very clear. But you still have, even if you know 100% you're doing the right thing for the right reasons, and that you try to exit as gracefully as possible, there's still at least a lot of times going to be that guilt. But like I do think is even even though it kind of goes against those like team player instincts, you still have to remind yourself at the end of the day that with your career, you have to be selfish. And I don't mean in a
Mhm.
negative connotation, I mean the positive connotation of you can't be your best for the world if you don't have yourself together first. And it's kind of like what we were talking about being a podcast. Like I was realizing like there are like moments where it's like I'm too stressed out, my brain is firing too fast and I can't calm it down. If I'm going to be the best version of myself for work, I can't just say put out a bunch of good stuff but watch my attitude and health go to shit, because
Mhm.
eventually I'm not gonna,
It's gonna affect both.
yeah, I'm not gonna be as good of a person outwardly to others, and I'm gonna feel terrible on the inside. So it's like you do have to remain that, like, remind yourself at the end of the day. It's a line that I've heard a lot at Oracle from people who've given advice higher up is like, you have to take your own career progression into your own hands, and no
Mhm.
one is responsible for that but you. It's like you do have to be selfish. And like, although it sucks and you're going to feel bad, it's like at the end of the day, you do have to remind yourself, like, why am I making this decision? My manager could be the best person in the world. I can have a great work relationship. But at the end of the day, it's like my life isn't to say, like, be that person's underling for forever. And if you
Mhm.
realize that, hey, this is the time to go, let's move on, you want to do that as quickly as possible, because things could just keep spiraling more and more downward until the effects and difficulty of you leaving like become worse and worse. So it's kind of like taking care of yourself so that you can like be the better version in the future. But it is hard. It's like I'm really like empathetic to that whole kind of plight, because it's a tough situation. There's like no right answer.
Yeah, I feel like, for example, like if I were to be in a really bad toxic environment, I would feel bad about leaving, but at the same time, it would be easier. I do feel like, for example, let's say that there's times where I have to stay up until late and finish some work, right? And one of my biggest motivations is basically saying, wow, like my team is so awesome. Like I have to do this, like
Mhm.
I have to deliver this. Or like, especially like my manager, like I just don't like, I take it personal to not let her down.
Yeah, same.
And, um, but I do it because I feel like it's worth it. And I am happy in my position. Like, yes, there are times where I'm same as you eating McDonald's.
Yeah.
I feel I'm like, wow, that's such a great idea. But then I eat it and I feel terrible. And
Mhm.
I haven't left my house. I tell my boyfriend to walk my dog. And I haven't worked out. And maybe this happens like 3 days in a row because I really have to make up this deadline and I don't want to just deliver whatever. Like I want to, like, if I'm doing something, like I want it to look good because that's my name.
Uh-huh.
So I always like my motivation is saying I don't want to leave anyone down. And I also feel like I'm like, wow, I've given, like, they've given me this chance, because I'm telling you, when I looked at this job description, I was like, that's not, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do here. So it's hard to like divide that.
Yeah. One of the things that just reminded me of just talking about that is just how like the fact with even with our projects, like being in it's funny because sometimes you just need to power through, and it is about like the output, and kind of like we're saying, you have to put your head down, knock out the project, you're going to be working late. But kind of going back to what we're talking about, like your debts will come due. One of the big things with PM is a lot of our deliverables that we do, they're pretty loosely defined, and there is a full scale to the quality of like what you put out, where like let's just say for like what would be like a good example, like if your job is just to produce like thing X, and that thing X is like always going to be the same, that's like one thing. But with PM, let's just take an example of like the SQL CL liquid based live lab I'm making. I could put out something that's the bare minimum. And it's like, okay, maybe people who are really desperate to check out the technology, they'll still take a look because it's like the only source of information. But if you want to do a good job, it's like you put more into it. Like you think about it a lot and you make sure that you have this of like the highest quality you can. And like one of the things with like PM is juggling how you have multiple of those kind of, let's just call it like quality variable products or projects that you're working on at a time, where if you're getting kind of like burnt out and you're like running your gas tanks at zero, even if like 95% of the way you got those quality, like that quality project done, like you did put the work into it, if you don't kind of get that across the finish line at the same level of, let's just say, like holding yourself to that standard because like you're just too on empty and you're just like, let's just get done and out. It's like that will cause your stuff to suffer versus just like, I don't know. It's just at the end of the day, being able to have that long term, this is a marathon, not a sprint, both in terms of, let's just say, if it's in PM, taking care of yourself, making sure that your health is there so you can continuously put stuff out at high quality rather than say like burn yourself out on one thing and then you have a bunch of stuff that's like at a lower quality, or even just switching jobs where if you're burnt out, you're not feeling good, you're mentally in a bad place, like you don't feel like you have a good team dynamic, like not only is it just kind of you're in this position, but the stuff that you put out is going to be of a lower quality versus if you're in a place where you're feeling good, you're feeling supported. So that's like something too that I think is helpful for people, where if you are kind of in your place and you're like, let's just say you're in a bad work spot, you want to get out and you are beating yourself out up because chances are if things are going bad enough that you want to leave, you probably won't be putting out the best type of stuff that you can do. But that could also lead you to think like, oh, am I not good enough? Am I like a failure because like I'm not putting out this good stuff? Like part of the reason why you go to something new and look for that always, how do I improve myself and kind of keep moving upward thing, is because like that will affect your quality, even if in say the day-to-day minutia, you can't see that like overarching perspective of things.
Yeah, I do like literally I feel like sometimes I struggle with the fact of like, let's say that if I'm very tired and I'm over something, let's say that I'm running into an issue, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the other day I was preparing for a presentation and I wasn't very comfortable with the presentation. And like I know how I'm able to present, right? So since I wasn't comfortable with it, I was like, I presented it because I had to, but I know it wasn't my 100%, you know? And my manager, Melly, she was like, "Oh, great job, Ramu," because like everyone's so supportive and nice, you know? But I know myself. So like I was like, I know I didn't do like a super great job, you know? And I told her, I was like, yeah, you know, like I wasn't feeling very comfortable, like because I was running into little bugs, you know, and it was like the day before. So I was spending too much time on trying to figure out that instead of like getting ready for my presentation. And so anyway, she kind of told me, she was like, yeah, I kind of saw that your personality changed a little bit with this presentation compared to the previous presentation you gave, you know? And basically like I think in any role, sometimes you just have to do things that you're not comfortable with, you know, and maybe you're not gonna give it your 100, but like I don't know, it's like you're letting yourself down, you know. At least me, like if I don't give my 100 or I know that it could have been better, like I'm letting myself down, and it hurts my confidence a little bit, you know. But it should be like used as a push to like, you know, next time I'll do better, you know.
Yeah.
And another thing that I like realize a lot with like if I'm very tired or you know like I don't know, sometimes I'm like stuck in one place and I can't just like move past, you know, because I've been sitting here for too long. My creativity like just flies away from me. I don't know where it goes, you know. But like for example in videos, because like we there's times where we start things from zero, like from nothing, and you come up with everything, every little thing, like your little Zach mailbox man, like you
Mhm.
come up with literally everything from zero, and you need to be so creative with that, but sometimes you force yourself too much that you can't see the answer, or you can't see a picture, or you cannot debug something, or I don't know, like you just can't find the solution. And that has happened to me so many times that I go to sleep and then I wake up and I look and I'm like, wow, like it was just a click away.
Yeah, the amount of times I've woken up and something that it's like 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I've been spinning on it. I'm like, I want to just finish this before I put it down. But then I finally
Exactly.
like give up and like the morning, I'm like, I figured this out in half an hour. I like wasted 2 hours. There's something that
Legit.
reminded me of I'm gonna call it technical syndrome, but just the whole like getting stuck on a problem. There
Ugh,
have been so many times I do it myself, I notice it in other people, just with our line of work, and I would assume this probably applies to most technical kind of jobs, is if you're working on a big problem for like hours and you can't solve
cannot.
it, and then you have like calls for other things, it is so hard to get your brain
Get back
out
in the
of that
flow.
mode to like, oh, be aware and like kind of take your brain out of like super
You're
deep
still thinking
calculating mode.
about it.
Yeah. And I've been trying to get better about it. Like there are times was like I've been on the call just and it's like nothing like high stakes. Like I'm not showing up to presentations doing this, but
Right.
just stuff where it's like, oh, like I just noticed that on this like internal call about blah blah blah. It's like I my brain kept going back to the problem because I was frustrated I couldn't fix it kind of thing. Like that's something
Yeah.
that's definitely interesting to be aware of, but also your whole thing with the presentation, you not being yourself. I had an exact situation like that a couple weeks ago, and it kind of what led to a bit of my like, okay, we need to get a bit more grounded thing where I came up with an idea for um like a new product or something, and I was pitching it to some people, and like this was something that no one like asked me to do. I had an idea, I was running with it, and I just
Mhm.
wanted to see if there was any validity to the idea, but it was very multifaceted and complicated, and like the people who showed up to kind of hear me pitch it, it was one of those things that I mean, it was low stakes. It wasn't like, hey, we sent you to go do this thing, Zach. Like we're going to move forward with this and expect it to be of something. It was like, this is just out of the blue. Let's see where it goes. Because I was so in my head, just because I'd been like working on the draft for this idea for so long, my
Mhm.
brain was all over the place. Like on the call, I was word vomiting. I had no idea what my point was. I was completely insecure about what was good and bad about it because I didn't know. Because like I was kind of like throwing things out there and just being like, I don't know what to do with this kind of thing. And I just like walked away from that call, just like being all like nervous, anxious, word vomity all over the place. And like, luckily, it was a low stakes thing and
Yeah.
it was a learning lesson like for my career. But that, that like, that kind of just showed me like, okay, push myself and go deep, but also make sure I'm like walking away from it and taking care of myself. And I'm kind of taking the big picture into things because on retrospect, like looking back on it, I'm like, okay, I should have walked away from this like a week before. I should have spent time just making sure I was like taking care of myself that day, like getting my workout in, um, knowing my talking points and like what the value stuff was so I can get more from the experience rather than just me being like this ping pong ball, like going all over the place, not really sure like what to do with it just because I was like so just spun up and whatnot.
Yeah. Damn. I, okay. So moral of the story, it happens to everyone, and we learn from it and we move
Mhm.
on. Because, that I feel like sometimes we're like so focused on like, okay, let's say like every time we do something, like at least like a manager or someone comes to us and they're like, oh, this looks great, and then when you don't do as good, you beat yourself so hard
Mhm.
because you're like, oh my God, and then that determines your career. That's it, like I suck at this presentation, so I'm done. But it's not like, I think I would love to see other like our managers talk about their experiences, because
Mhm.
I'm 100% sure they had something like that where they just like, back in the day, because now they're like pros. Because like I see some of them are like I don't know, the other day Melly had to like present really quick on something, and she was like, oh well, like I'm not ready for, to do a dry run, but like we'll do it. And she presented so well, and I'm like, what? Like what are you talking about?
I know.
So it comes with experience, but that doesn't like define us, like our whole like bad experience.
Yeah. And like the same way how you and I are just talking about, it's like, oh, we're noticing we're doing some things well. When we mess up, it's like, okay, that stung a little bit. Let's take note. What can I learn from it? Like everyone else is doing that. And I want to I'm excited to have Jeff on a podcast because I want the Jeff Smith tell all of how he got to where he is, because he's been a PM for a while here, and he's like obviously had a very like great and well-known career in the space. So that would be cool to see.
That will for sure. So do you want to go really quick into like the interview, or do you want to leave it for next?
We've been going for an hour 15, so this is probably a good place where, yeah, we basically got everything up to how we got our interviews. So maybe
Mhm.
next time we can start out with going over what the interview process was like. Maybe if there was any, like we can keep it kind of vague, but if there was any, say, tips or stuff we learned about like salary negotiations, what was
Mhm.
our first impressions of our managers when we met them, that could be a big one. Like, what did we have to do for our interview? And then eventually we'll kind of go into what was like starting out. But yeah, I think we're in a good place for right now.
Sounds good.
Nice.
Alrighty then. See everyone
Yeah,
later.
sounds good. That was episode 4 of Technically Managing. See you all in 2 weeks.
Bye everyone.